How can there be so many? There were a bunch of loot chests all over the place. When I noticed a presence behind me, I attacked immediately. Was it just the sound of the wind? But I felt a presence. There was an injured person in there. He must be strong to have survived until now. Should I finish him off and take his loot? No, I'm leaving. I need to prioritize my survival. When I left, there really was someone there. He thanked God for still being alive. Of course he would have won if he wasn't injured, or at least that's what he thought. Soon he went back to looting the chests. That's when I hit his head. I'm a former army sergeant. With my experience, there's no way I'd die here. But I'll tell you how we ended up in this situation. How he's a strong veteran even though he's just an ordinary Korean. It had been 6 months since he left the army. Jin Se-woon spends the day reading manhwa. He wanted to live in a different world. At 23 years old, he's addicted. Now he has to get ready to go back to school. Ever since he got discharged from the army, he hangs out at an internet cafe, and then he grinded the game and got into the top 10 rankers in 3 months. The game is loyal ground. 100 players drop from the plane. They collect weapons, supplies, and kill other players until only one is left. He's so addicted that even if his friend dies, alone he takes out a bunch of people. The game is literally a battle royale. At the end of the game, there were 2 players teaming up against Jin Se-woon. They went into the house, seeing supplies on the floor. They thought nobody was there, but they were wrong. The main guy is really experienced. Only a sound was heard in the room. Realizing his teammate died, he started running, but soon he got one tapped in the head. Jin Se-woon was the winner. Noticing the time on the monitor, he has to go back because he starts studying tomorrow. Suddenly his mom sends a message giving him money for his studies. On the way back, he feels guilty for wasting time. In bed, he thinks that starting tomorrow he won't play anymore. He checks some news and ends up falling asleep. The next day, he was on his way to school, and his friend was texting him to play. While he thought about skipping class, a purple light appeared. When he turned around, he got swallowed by the light, leaving only his backpack there. What place is this? There's a giant statue and a bunch of people around. He blacked out for a moment and thought he was being punished for thinking about skipping class. But why is it so loud? A bunch of people were fighting, and there were even mages casting magic. While some fought, others were cleaning their swords. Why were there so many cosplayers here? Where was he? Who are all these people? The statue announced that 100 players had been detected. Then it initialized the system, starting with language synchronization. Suddenly everyone was speaking the same language. Even so, people didn't stop fighting. A mage was asking if it was his enemy who brought him to this place. Furious, he said he wouldn't be fooled anymore. But the undead didn't seem to care. Then the archmage starts his attack, and with all his strength he throws a spell at the undead. But nothing happened, and that was confusing. Maybe because he was already dead. Now he was alive? Suddenly the system announces that the game is about to start. The difficulty is on easy, and you need to be in the top 90 to pass. The map is King Kingdom's capital, and the reward will be given to the first top 10. The tutorial was skipped. In the waiting room, player attacks are neutralized, and they were given a game map. The game was Cloyd Survival, and it will last 100 days. Each day the map shrinks. This game will continue until only one is left, and if the game ends or you die, you'll return to the original world. Players who don't place in the top 90 will never be able to enter Cloyd Survival again. In there they can get items to become stronger. Jin Se-woon realized this was identical to Loyal Ground, but there was something different. The humans here seemed insanely strong. Is he the only normal person? Even if it's a dream, he doesn't want to die. Suddenly someone calls out to him. A big man asks what he's staring at over there, and where he's from, but he quickly gets furious at being ignored. At that moment, the countdown to start the game began. With 2 seconds left, the man asks if he's crazy for laughing. He's dreaming a fun dream, so why wouldn't he laugh? Pointing his finger, he says he has all the knowledge and can easily destroy people like him and survive. Then the game started. Everyone started falling from the sky like meteors. A lot of them were dropping straight down. They wanted the good loot in that area, which must be rare. But at first Jin prefers to play it safe, so he thinks about dropping somewhere more isolated. When it announced the word descend, he hits the ground like thunder. This was really similar to the game. He stood still for a while. He felt sick from the landing, so he decided to go into the house right away. All of a sudden he heard something. He forgot to check if anyone had landed near him, so he ran to the house. Everything would be over if one of those mages landed near him, and he didn't have a weapon. He quickly shut the door. He was panting like he'd been in a Mr. Beast video for money. Only now did he regret mocking the big guy, thinking maybe he had followed him. But when he looked out the window, it was just the sound of the wind. Only then did he go down to loot. He quickly started searching. That's when he bumped into something. It was a heavy crossbow, and it really was heavy, just like the description. He also found the bolts. As soon as he picked it up, how to use it popped into his head. For a Korean army sergeant, this was nothing, so he pulled the trigger, and the bolt shot out like a rocket. This definitely wasn't a normal crossbow. That thing could easily turn into a tank. If he learns to use it properly, it'll be really useful. After searching a lot and not finding anything else, he decided to go loot somewhere else. His idea was to make the most of it before running into a player. He opens the door to check if there's an enemy. He quickly looks for loot, until he finds a scroll. This was an item that could heal him if it was torn. meaning it was something unreal. Now a backpack item or something like that would be nice. When he looked back, he noticed a glow. It was a Black Star QI Palms martial arts book. He quickly taps to learn it. The book floats in the air and tears itself apart. It's like his understanding changed. When he looked at his hand, the hand that had been normal before started to wear down, like he'd been training for hours or years. When he picked up a fork from the plate, now he can throw it like it's a gunshot. Did he really learn martial arts like that? The author just writes whatever's convenient. Our hero quickly pulled the fork out from the wall and was pretty satisfied by the results. He was now certain that this game was similar to Rogue, as since there was a martial arts book, there must be magic books as well. After searching the entire house, the player decided to go somewhere else. It was now nighttime, and the protagonist had spent the entire day gathering stuff and was now searching for a hiding spot. At that moment, he noticed something intriguing. One of the houses had its light on. This could mean that there was a rare item inside it, but the light could also indicate that this hiding spot was already taken. Despite not knowing how many enemies were near him, Seo Woon was certain that the one here was either a fabulous hunter or a complete beginner. According to him, the first floor seemed to be empty. This made our hero believe that the enemy was on the second floor. Seo Woon started to take courage in his weapon and his skill, Dark Star, as they might give him a chance even if the enemy was an expert. And so, he began climbing the stairs. The protagonist was moving slowly, his crossbow in hand, ready for anything. Only then did he realize what was in front of him. Upon seeing the item, and realizing that it was a lamp, Seo Woon began to wonder if he was walking into a trap. Only then did he notice a door next to the lamp. At first, the protagonist wasn't sure if he should enter, but in the end, he forced his way into the room. From the looks of it, it seemed empty. After checking one last time and making sure that no one was here, Seo Woon collapsed to the ground, as he had deluded himself into thinking that there was an enemy in this house. Yet he couldn't deny the fact that him being wrong was truly relieving. Only then did our hero find something in the drawer. The gamer had found a ring that boosted his strength by 20 points. The distributed effect seemed interesting, and so the crossbow user quickly put it on. The power of the ring immediately manifested itself. Suddenly, the hero's body didn't feel as heavy as before, and the weight of the crossbow had almost disappeared. At that moment, he came to a realization regarding his most recent boost. And so, in order to make sure, he opened his status window. The stats of the young man weren't impressive, yet upon learning the martial arts skill, the game classified him as a martial artist. Seo Woon was pretty happy with the items that he had acquired as he descended on this land with practically nothing. Now free, he decided to scavenge the first floor. Shortly after, he came across a storage item. This was the second ring that the protagonist had found in this house. The user needed to hold the item in hand and think subspace, and press the ring or think about it in order to open the storage. It was then revealed that the inventory of the subspace ring had limited storage. With that, our protagonist immediately summoned the subspace. This odd ring was rather convenient, as it spared the main character from carrying all of his stuff. He even began wishing for something similar to this ring to exist on Earth. Jin Xiaowen started to think about the life that he would have on Earth if he were able to return with the skills and items that he would have acquired from the game. He then began to search for a kill log in order to see if anyone had been eliminated yet. Our hero quickly found it. Seeing how there were now 99 players left, he decided to keep on farming until 90 survivors remained. Shortly after, upon scavenging the rest of the house, our hero found consumable objects and hidden weapons that would go well with his Dark Star skill. Now he was confronted with the choice of either spending the night in this house or leaving it to search another. It was obvious that the maniacs that were with our hero in the lobby would roam the map even at night. Yet seeing how fighting was the only way to get to the top 10, our boy began to wish to stumble upon more great locations. Since fewer players would be roaming the map at night, Seo Woon decided to check one last location for the day. While walking, he realized just how amazing the strength ring was, as despite having been on the move for countless hours, he wasn't tired at all. The game seemed pretty realistic, as even with fatigue out of the way, hunger and thirst were still problems that the young man had to face. Seeing how there was no food nearby, he began wondering if he would be able to find any in a private house. But just as he began checking the map for the closest one, a beast was suddenly heard. The blood of the protagonist froze in his veins as he realized that something was behind him. He immediately started to move, and hid behind a tree out of panic as he couldn't sense the beast. Upon taking a look at the monster, he realized that the appearance of the creature was familiar. The monster that had now found our protagonist was a werewolf. Panic invaded the mind of Seo Woon as he started to run away while the beast tried to kill him. Its claws were so powerful that they easily tore through a tree. The two beasts seemed to be working together. This game that was supposedly a fight between players turned out to have monsters inside. Seo Woon would have never exited the house if he was aware that such creatures exist on the map. As he used to be in the top 10 of Rogue, the protagonist began to think that he would become a disappointment if he met his end like that. Only then did he spot a house ahead. Seo Woon ran as fast as possible, and just like that, our hero finally hid inside the house. But, with misfortune, the beasts had followed him there. Now in a pickle, he tried to come up with a plan of action. Seo Woon decided to take a quick peek outside. Upon seeing the monsters relying on their noses so much, he realized that they must be tracking his scent. So he decided to attack first, thinking that it would bring him victory, and thus, he pointed his crossbow at the wolves. After aiming his arrow carefully, the hero fired it from inside the house. Just like that, Seo Woon was able to snipe a werewolf in the head. The first of the two threats had been taken down. Due to the strength boost, reloading the crossbow became a piece of cake. But just as the protagonist rushed to do so in order to shoot the other werewolf, he realized something horrifying. The sniper had been spotted, and thus, he tried his best to dodge the giant claw of the monster. But despite his best efforts, his face was scratched by the beast. The werewolf was now inside the house. It immediately charged at the human with murderous intent. Our protagonist tried to shoot it down, but the monster protected himself by shielding his head with his hand. And just like that, our hero was now at the mercy of the werewolf. Yet even when all hope seemed to be lost, he summoned his subspace in order to fight back. From it, he pulled out a knife. The hero then resorted to his Dark Star ambush skill in order to put a hole through the chest of the monster. After going through the thick body of the wolf, the knife bent against the wall. Jin Seo-woon, who was determined to survive, didn't want to be taken out by an NPC. Just like that, our hero was able to clutch a 2v1. At the sight of the two werewolves, he assumed that he was going to meet his demise. The experience was so frightening that he found himself unable to stand on his feet. If it wasn't for the throwing daggers, our hero would have been taken down by a simple mob. Only then did he notice a small pouch in front of him. Seo-woon assumed that this was a monster drop. Seeing how he had gotten food and water, he realized that this game allows him to hunt his meals. The protagonist began considering searching this house while eating his jerky. He quickly stumbled upon armor that he compared to a bulletproof vest in his game. At first, the armor seemed too big for our scrawny hero, but just then it shrunk to match his small size. According to the system, this item was known as the Superior Orichalcum Quirus that would grant our protagonist magic resistance to fire and wind. Seo-woon was left impressed, as this piece of equipment increased many of his stats. Our hero was certain that this house had something more to offer. He was then left confused, as he felt an item despite seeing nothing. The player assumed that this was a concealed object. He seemed to have found a piece of cloth. Upon putting it on, the system revealed that it was known as the Mantle of the Gods that would allow the user to blend perfectly with the shadows when staying still. Seeing how this item would make him invisible to identification magic and conceal his presence, the protagonist couldn't help but be pleased. This godly item was perfect for survival, as it would allow our hero to move through the night without being noticed. And thus, the young man decided to go put the cape to the test, as he was certain that it would help him on his journey. Seo-woon was lucky to stumble upon this old house in the middle of the forest, as it granted him great items on his second day. Later on that night, Seo-woon began to assume that he hadn't met any player yet due to the fact that he had landed in the outskirts of the map. But just then, the screams of someone came to his attention. This person was running as fast as possible and was injured. The young man with the scarred face regretted not having enough time to use this one item, as it would have allowed him to beat the apprentice. Our hero, under his invisible cloak, watched him from a safe hiding spot. The young man in question was annoyed to have run into a mage. The one with the scarred face didn't seem to be an experienced survivor, and thus, our protagonist was certain that he could eliminate him. Jin Seo-woon then desperately tried to convince himself that this was a game and that he wouldn't be taking the life of a real person. At that moment, the magic words were chanted. A huge fireball flew by our hero. The young man with the burnt face was terrified, as he had no time to react, and just like that, he found himself getting burned to a crisp. At first, our hero thought that he had witnessed a murder, but what he saw next left him completely shocked. Seo-woon, who wondered about the identity of the shooter, was now certain that he was in a game, as he saw a chest appear where the corpse should have been. At that moment, the mage who took revenge on the stable hand who dared to steal his items passed right by him. The red hat found it to be quite a shame, as the boy hadn't died peacefully from his first strike. Seo-woon was left completely amazed by the powers of this cloak, as it allowed him to go unnoticed even with the enemy right next to him. The mage, known as Karen, claimed that this stable hand should feel honored to have been slain by him, and with that, he rushed to check the chest that he had dropped. Our hero could have been demolished by the mage, as he was just a beginner, just like the now dead man. This shocking experience made him realize that hesitation would result in his demise, and so he made up his mind. Jin Seo-woon would now do what was necessary in order to survive. Karen was happy with the item he had found in the chest of his late victim. Only then did he feel startled. A high-speed projectile had hit the barrier that he had put around himself. Karen realized that he had been too loud while hunting his prey, which attracted the attention of another player. Seo-woon decided to take yet another shot, and once again, the mage couldn't react to it. If nothing was done, the magician's magical barrier would shatter, And so, while our protagonist remained calm in his hiding spot, the one with the fire powers began to panic. He tried to predict the direction where the sniper was hiding and fired a fireball at it. The mage then urged the hidden sniper to come out and fight like a true warrior. The response to the stunt came in the form of a flying knife. Its target was the clueless young mage. And before this one could even realize what was happening, his barrier was broken into 1,000 pieces. Charon, who was now defenseless, started to panic even more while urging the enemy to come out. Yet Seo-woon was determined to stay well hidden. With that, the fire user decided to resort to a powerful spell. Yet before he could even realize it, an arrow had pierced his head. He couldn't even finish the incantation of his attack before having his head blown away by the hidden sniper. Jin Seo-woon had achieved victory. The eliminated player left nothing but a chest behind. Seeing how he couldn't risk being spotted, Seo-woon decided to loot the chest as fast as possible before quickly making his leave. The chest of the mage had excellent items, including a medium healing scroll. Our hero had also acquired a necklace of pure gold that was the brand of the escrow's magic council, which he deemed useless but decided to take anyway. Only then did he notice something intriguing in the other chest. Seo-woon had found the item known as the circle stone that would install a magic circle around his heart, which would provide him with mana. Seeing how he would also learn the magic of the nature of the circle, the young man realized that this item could turn him into a true mage. This also made him understand that this was the item that the one with the burnt face didn't have enough time to use. Seo-woon started pitying this man, yet decided to gladly use his item, and so he dumped everything in his subspace before making his leave. Our hero would now search for a good hiding spot to use this new item. After some time, he managed to find a house that seemed decent. Once inside, the circle stone was immediately used. According to the system, the process, which required him to do nothing else, would take 3 hours and could potentially make the protagonist experience slight pain. And thus, the potential pain started. Seo-woon did his best to silence his screams during 3 hellish hours of pure agony. It felt like the system had lied to the protagonist, who had almost lost himself to the pain. Seo-woon understood that magic was harder to learn than martial arts and decided to check his status window. From what he saw, the boy was pleased to see that he had acquired a mana stat. The young man then decided to check the number of survivors, as 2 had perished right in front of his eyes. But as soon as it opened, the hidden sniper was left utterly baffled. More than half of the players had already been eliminated. Upon taking a look at the kill log, he realized that numerous survivors had perished at the hands of a so-called Nam-sa-gwang. A little earlier, Aemon desperately tried to run for his life. Yet to his misfortune, the one after him greatly enjoyed the hunt. Only then did he trip over a rock. The one with the giant stone fell face first to the ground. Now defenseless, the swordsman started to beg to be one of the 90 remaining survivors. Seeing how he didn't want the others to surpass him, the man began to beg from the bottom of his heart. But despite his best efforts, his head had been exploded by the one that must have become a celebrity among the rest of the players by now. Just like that, Nam-sa-gwang left the scene, leaving behind nothing but the chest of his latest victim. On the 3rd day of the Salish game, 54 players had been eliminated in the span of a single night. Our hero decided to stay away from Nam-sa-gwang, who had caused most of the carnage. But only then did he realize that he might be able to use the situation in order to get into the top 10. The hero began to wonder about the prizes that would be given to the top 10, theorizing that he might be allowed to take some items from the game to the real world. Seo-woon quickly got a hold of himself as he began to dream big, shortly after realizing that there was a serial killer among the players. And so he decided to finish his preparations in order to change location. The young man began to wonder if the power dwelling inside his body realized that he had acquired a magic skill book yesterday. The book in question was the Magic Book of Windball that allows the user to create spheres of wind relative to his power. He didn't think twice before using it on himself. At first, our hero didn't feel any different when suddenly spells began to appear in his head. And just like that, he chanted the magic words in order to activate the spell. With that, 4 mini wind spheres appeared. The young man was somehow disappointed by the result. For that reason, he threw the small balls away. But suddenly, they exploded in a powerful burst of wind. These puny spheres that packed quite the punch had the potential to be convenient. But since he had used all of his mana in one spell, our hero was suddenly tired. With time, the livable zone on the map began to shrink, as our protagonist kept roaming its edges in order to find more items. Seo-woon began to think that he wouldn't find many players, as their number had greatly decreased, and he wanted to farm as fast as possible before the area got smaller. But little did he know someone was watching him from above, observing every detail of the young man's journey. The old one was left quite intrigued, and so he decided to keep on moving. After half a day, our hero arrived at another set of houses, but what he saw there left him quite speechless. The many chests lying around meant that a carnage had happened in this very place. The instincts of the young man then noticed something horrifying, and so he resorted to his magic powers in order to strike the nearby door with his wind ball explosives. At first, our hero tried to shake the feeling off. He thought that there was an enemy nearby, but only then did he notice something intriguing. Upon looking inside the house, he realized that it was tainted with blood. This must mean that it sheltered a wounded player. Seo-woon feared that the enemy was skilled, as he had survived this long in the game, yet was tempted to take him out for the items, seeing how he was injured. But in the end, he quickly turned around and left the scene, seeing how survival was his main priority. After waiting some time, and making sure that the cloaked one had left the scene, the player finally got out of his hiding spot. He had concealed himself at the last minute, seeing how he was about to get discovered. The man found himself pretty annoyed, as our puny hero would have been easy to kill. With that, he decided to loot the remaining chests before resuming his course. But suddenly an arrow came out of nowhere and pierced his skull. Only then did the player realize what had happened. Yet, unfortunately, it was already too late. Just like that, the trap set by our hidden sniper had worked perfectly. With that, our hero decided to loot the chests before making his way to the outskirts of the map. Only then was he startled by a voice, pointing out how skilled he was in these kinds of situations. Seo-woon began to panic as he was about to be caught off guard, but the old man reassured the boy that he had only approached him to ask a few questions. When asked about his name, the old one explained that introductions would be pointless, seeing how they were from two different realities. This was the first time that Jin Seo-woon had met this type of person in Claude, and so, as the sun began to set, the old one asked the young man if he had played this game before. He explained that he had been watching his quick progress from afar and asked him if he was aware that none of this was real. Jin Seo-woon, who was shocked to not have noticed the old man sooner, stated that this was his first time here and that there were similar games back in his world. The one with no name was greatly amazed by this, as he recognized that the young one in front of him was truly from another world. Jin Seo-woon and the old man then noticed that the night of the third day had already begun. When asked about the size of the moon back on Earth, the boy realized that he had never noticed how big the one here was. As it turns out, the moon in both Seo-woon's and the old man's realities was smaller than the one in this place. The old man explained that he was interested in the game's protagonist, who argued that they risked a surprise attack by staying here. Thus, the one with no name proposed moving to a safer location in order to resume the conversation, while our hero demanded assurance that he wouldn't be betrayed. The old man ignored his question and reminded him that he must keep quiet at all times. He then began jumping from one tree to another while explaining that silence was their only way not to be spotted. Yet the old man was moving a little too fast for our geeky protagonist, and just like that, the two of them went to a different location. At the time, our hero didn't know how much meeting this one man would affect his life. Later on, somewhere else on the map, once safe in a high-up tree, Seo-woon, who was afraid to fall, explained that his modern world had created virtual games similar to this one. Seo-woon started to wonder how long the elder had been spying on him, as he had witnessed firsthand how quickly he had developed. He then answered the question that our hero was thinking by explaining that the two of them had landed in the same spot. At first, the old man wanted to spend the entire match alone in peace, yet he ended up watching our hero, as he wanted to ask him why and how they had been dragged here. But upon learning that the one from the modern world was just as ignorant, the old man was confused, as there were supposedly similar games back in his reality. Seo-woon explained that he was referring to innocent and literal games that harm no one, and that no one knows why the creator of the game has brought them here. The old man quickly understood what the young man meant, but to his intrigue, he claimed that this game would be someone's golden chance. According to our hero, players don't actually die in this game, and the promised rewards for the top 10 would be the items that they had acquired in the game. The old man understood that the protagonist was referring to the gear, the martial arts, and the skills that he had picked up on his journey. Seo-woon explained that, unlike the old man, who must have an easy life, powers like magic could truly pull him out of his misery. It was easy to see that the old man was a well-respected master in martial arts, unlike our pathetic guy, who sees this game as a way to gain an easier life. Seo-woon was then startled and rushed to quiet down the nameless master, who burst out laughing. As the conversation kept going on, they realized that they didn't even know how to access the map. With that, Jin Seo-woon and the old master spent the entire night conversing with each other, as he explained to the old man in detail how the game works. As morning finally arrived, their feet finally touched the ground. The old man then apologized to the protagonist for wasting so much of his time. Yet Seo-woon, who appreciated the tales of the old man's world, didn't mind this, as the old man's side was the safest location possible. Seeing how he had learned a lot about the game from him, the old man asked the young one how he could ever pay him back. Hearing this, our protagonist immediately demanded to learn the martial arts of the old master, as they would be crucial for his goal to survive until the end. After thinking about it for a brief instant, the expert martial artist shocked the beginner by claiming that this would be complicated. According to the old man, Seo-woon must brace himself to meet his unavoidable demise. And thus, The master asked the young warrior if he was truly prepared to take such a huge risk. According to the old man, the cheat codes that would allow him to succeed quickly would come at a heavy price. And so, as he asked the young man if he was ready, Seo-woon reminded him that in this game, real death doesn't exist. In that case, the method might be possible, leaving our protagonist excited. Seo-woon became excited as the old man explained that there might be some hope for him. With that, the master decided to check how much inner energy his pupil had. But what he found left him utterly shocked. The boy was so weak that even the old man's dog had more energy than him, seeing how Seo-woon was from a magicless reality after all. With that, the student was instructed to sit cross-legged. Everything had now been set. The old man explained that the young one would now experience horrifying pain and that he wouldn't be able to react to it. According to him, failure to endure the agony would result in death. The senses of the protagonist had been greatly sharpened to the point where the air felt like knives on his skin and lava in his lungs. At that moment, something odd began to happen as our hero was struck with a sudden sensation. Seo-woon started to scream in pain and agony. This experience was so intense that the young man thought that he was about to meet his demise. But only then did it happen. As he plunged into the sensation even further with his enhanced senses, he suddenly saw himself as well as the master. Despite the internal screams, to the outside the players seemed perfectly still. And just like that, the experience ended. After this horrifying experience, the stomach of our hero had been greatly upset. The old man explained to the Warfang hero that the fact that he had survived this method meant that he had potential to grow. Things would now be different, as the old one had changed the flow of qi inside the young man. The master then pointed out how his student wanted to gain strength quickly and had used a fragment of his own soul in order to create an absorption gate. Normally, human beings should only be able to absorb qi by breathing, yet this new gate would make things different for our protagonist. According to the old man, the flesh, the mind, and the spirit that compose a human are all connected by vital energy. He then asked Seo-woon about what happens to the energy when someone dies, so the boy theorized that it perishes with its owner. According to the old one, this wasn't the case. As the vital energy would get divided, this was similar to a drop of water exploding upon touching the ground. Upon death, the vital energy returns to nature in order to maintain this cycle of life. But according to the old one, some people found this to be a waste. These individuals started killing to steal vital energy. But since the power wasn't theirs, some lost their powers, while others lost their lives due to the inner chaos. And now the old man had given the young sniper the power to use this dark ability. Seo-woon realized that he could have truly died, while the old one explained that he was different from the others, as he would absorb using a gate made from a soul. The master had also twisted the body of the young man that was deprived of inner energy to make it a perfect vessel for the absorbed qi. Seo-woon immediately guessed that the old man had given him such a deadly technique due to the circumstances of the game. The one with no name realized the other day that even after dying, the energy of the players lingered in its place. This technique, which would be considered evil as it required killing, would in fact be perfect for the environment of this game. According to the old man, if the young protagonist kept on killing to survive, he would become greatly powerful by the end of the game. And so, with that being said, the master decided to bid his pupil farewell. At that moment, Jin Seo-woon demanded to know the name of the man who had given him this great gift. The old man introduced himself as the Serene Immortal, Jang Do-chin, and revealed the name of the forbidden technique to be the unrestrained inner energy technique. And so, as the hero claimed that he was in the eternal depths of the immortal, this one advised him to work hard in order to gradually increase his strength. Do-chin then opened the quite useful map that the gamer had showed him. In the end, the old man affirmed to the young one that he would look forward to their next meeting. And just like that, the immortal went on his way. It wasn't a surprise for the hidden sniper to see the master quickly disappear. This made him wish for a technique that would allow him to move his body more easily. With that being said, Seo-woon decided to focus on the game and head to the outskirts of the permitted zone.